Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome back here at ECCMID TV, brought live to you from the Bella Center here in Copenhagen, Denmark. My name is Judith Cohen. I am your ECCMID TV host, and I'm very glad to be introducing my next guest here in our TV studio, Professor Adrian Egli from Zürich, Switzerland, where he is director of the Institute for Medical Microbiology at the University of Zürich in Switzerland. That's correct?
Yes,
yes,
correct.
okay.
Thank you.
You start fumbling now. And you are also more known probably to our ECCMID attendees as one of the keynote lecturers, as there's a big poster or banner hanging over the registration hall. Your topic of your keynote lecture was digitalization and machine learning in microbiology. Addressing promises and challenges. So I'd love it if you would take a few minutes and talk to our viewers a little bit about these promises and challenges, because digitalization, machine learning, they are words that most scientists are familiar with to some extent now, but where are we? Where are we standing? How to apply the digital technologies? That is your expertise, I have been told.
Yeah, thank you very much for the opportunity also to give here an interview. Indeed, digitalization and machine learning are kind of buzzwords for most of us. We hear a lot in media now since the release of ChatGPT. We are thinking about artificial intelligence, what can it mean? And the keynote lecture was addressing these promises, but also challenges we have.
Yeah.
I think the point is that with all the technologies we have in the lab, which we generate, to help patients, identification of pathogens, resistance testing, we generate a lot of data, and this is somewhat overwhelming, and we need help. And this help is promised by new analytical algorithms, such as machine learning, to give us more profound insights.
Yeah.
And I think for us, what we now realize since ChatGPT emerged on the surface, and it's really the public is aware of that, and that's one of the quotes which I had in my presentation, that the age of AI has begun, and this is really an exciting future we are looking into.
Yeah, and it seems almost like at the beginning of machine learning and AI, there was a little bit of holding back, I think, from doctors and researchers who were feeling, well, I hope I'm not being replaced by a machine. I think we're past that stage already, because what is your opinion?
I'm not so sure. Clearly, every new technology introduced requires a careful introduction, and we need to educate people, make people aware of it, and I think this keynote lecture was an opportunity to do that, but there's way more work which we need to do. Yeah. It's extremely important, I think, that we train our residents, in the different fields, in infectious diseases, in clinical microbiology, about these technologies and how we can actually use it. And I think we are at the beginning of this, so it's not... I have a lot of discussions with colleagues who fear that they are replaced by an algorithm. But I think this fear is not justified. There's always, with every new technology, people adapt. So if we take the multi-TOF-based identification as an example, which was replacing biochemical identification, and in the beginning lab technicians were extremely careful, and they didn't want it to lose their expertise and the manual handling of the samples, and now a new technology is here and we adapt it, and I think this will happen to AI as well, but it needs good training of the people.
Yeah, because that's probably the drawback of AI, that if you don't apply it correctly, is there danger in doing that?
I think with every new technology, there needs to be a careful validation. And as the lab is a perfect suited environment to actually introduce artificial intelligence into medicine. Because in general, I would say that clinical microbiology labs are an extremely controlled environment, where many processes are standardized, you do it always the same, you have standard operating procedures and so on. And we validate new technology, and I think this has to be done with machine learning based algorithms as well. So we need careful design studies. So for example, if you have something which would be outside of the lab, let's say a clinical decision support system, you would also need to set up a proper study, like what we know from pharmaceutical studies, that you have a randomized controlled trial, that you can really show what is the impact of the technology.
Yeah. Is there a field within medicine that you feel is best suited for digital application or application of digital technologies? Like, should you more incorporate it in preventative medicine or more in the diagnostic stage, or to recognize disease?
Yeah, that's a very interesting question. I think everywhere where we have a lot of data and where data is accessible for us, because we need to access the data, and the data needs to have a good quality, because garbage in, garbage out, that's a very common saying, and I think the labs are very well suited, so clinical microbiology labs, but also the whole field of laboratory medicine. So if you think about hematology, clinical chemistry, pathology, where you have, for example, digital slides of histology information. But then I also think radiology is a field which has very much progressed, where you have meanwhile algorithms which can interpret images in a very well and structured way.
Yeah. Yeah, and then there's always the physicians that will be scared and say, we can do that better as a human. This is human work, not machine work.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean,
but they probably benefit from each other.
The expertise is clearly something which we do not want to lose, and with ChatGPT, where everybody became an expert basically overnight, that is a quite natural reaction, I would say, from most people, because I also did that myself, and I can still remember the December Sunday when I was using ChatGPT the first time. I was also, I thought like, oh my God, what's going to happen here? And then I looked up clinical microbiological questions, and I wanted to see, am I still better? So, and I think, well, the machine was very good. What was the outcome? The machine was very good, but I still thought like, yes, maybe I could provide a bit more detail. But this technology is rapidly evolving, and I think the question really is, it's here to stay. It will not disappear. And we just need to adapt and integrate it into our workflows. Yeah.
Do you think it could be a solution for some really daunting problems within the field of microbiology and ID, such as predicting AMR?
Yes, that's
Is there a role there for?
Yeah, absolutely. I think there are different general applications, I would say. Rapid recognition of patients with an infection is one, antibiotic stewardship is another one. I think diagnostic stewardship is something which could also be quite interesting. So when to order the best test, there's a concept called digital twin. So if you have a patient who has very similar data to another person, you could actually ask, what was the test which really, brought forward the diagnostic process in the other patient? Should I do the same?
Oh, wow.
So that's an interesting concept. And then I think in the labs, where we really struggle with at the moment is to find qualified workers, so qualified staff, especially with lab technicians. And I think also in academia, I mean, there are less and less people who want to work on weekends, night shifts, etc. That's a general problem in healthcare. Yeah. And I think there AI might also help to compensate some of these elements, to kind of have a bit more, focused usage of real people.
Yeah, that's interesting. And this ECCMID specifically, you also chaired a symposium on digital technology. The symposium called Software Makes the Lab Go Round, Laboratory Information Management Software, the LIMS Revisited. Do you care to share with us the most important takeaway from that symposium, or the most important message that was brought across?
Yeah, that's a good question. So the thing is with LIMS, everybody has a laboratory information management system, but I don't think that most people are happy with it. And the reason is the question is a bit, why is this? And I think that was something I took out of this symposium. I mean, everybody was saying like, how complex also the diagnostic process is, and is this really reflected well in a software? And I think here there's so much technological advancements also that the software developer companies, they should really work better
with the users.
Yeah, with the users on one hand, but
Yeah.
also with the diagnostic companies. So, for example,
Yeah.
I'm really and that was a point. One of the question was actually, why are these middlewares? That's kind of a in-between software, which was developed by some of the diagnostic companies. Why don't they go really the full mile and develop a LIMS on their own, which would totally, make sense to integrate?
So is it fair to say that the people that were not satisfied with it, they feel like it's not helping them? They cannot see the full advantage of using it?
Yeah, no, I think they are using it to the best they can,
Yeah.
but I think we have just higher expectations nowadays
Okay.
regarding how
Yeah.
easy a software should be used. Imagine the iPhone. I don't think you have ever read a manual of the iPhone because it's so intuitive in using it. You just start it and it works.
And we expect that
and we expect that. And if you invest $1 million or $2 million into a software, you would also kind of expect that, especially if it's about health data and health. So I think these software companies in general need to make a step forward and go back to the user base and develop something. Yeah.
So what do you believe is the next step in machine learning, digital technology in medicine? Should it be improving what you just mentioned, improving like in the interface or the way it works, or so making it better, enhancing it, making it easier to use, or should it be more sophisticated? Should it be better in performance, in detecting what it should be detecting, or what is the direction that we're moving ahead to now?
I think accessibility of the technology is something which is very, very important. So that we, as you just said, make technology available for people so that they can try it out. And I think we really have sort of the iPhone moment now with ChatGPT, because it's a technology which is now out there. People get used to artificial intelligence. And I think this will translate at a certain point into the diagnostic and into infectious diseases, into this space. But it's a time where we also have to think about data protection aspects, safety elements, which you have thought, and there will be some regulatory aspects in it which we need to fulfill.
Yeah.
And as mentioned in the beginning of the interview, I think the environment where this is best suited and best controlled is actually in the lab. So I think we will see in the future more and more diagnostic tools which help us and which are based on artificial intelligence and to help us, for example, to have consistent quality of the interpretation, be faster in the interpretation.
So there's also an unmet need on educational level of the people that have to work with the machine.
Yeah, I think there will be some need, but to be honest, we cannot now. Everybody of us cannot make a PhD in data science to become a really professional in artificial intelligence.
No.
I think the technology has to be so easy to use that we can also handle it, and I think this will clearly happen.
So that needs to be the next step, actually.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for taking the time and effort to come here into our studio to elucidate this a little more. I hope you enjoy the rest of your ECCMID, what's still left, and thank you for your time.
I will certainly. Thank you.
Thank you. For our viewers, if you want to look back, the keynote lecture of Professor Egli, look it up. It's called Digitalisation and Machine Learning in Microbiology, Addressing Promises and Challenges. You can find it on demand and look it back on the online platform of ECCMID. We will be taking a short break, and then we will be back here with yet another guest in our studio. Actually, we have 2 more guests coming at 4 o'clock. To talk about the AMS certificate, so the Antimicrobial Stewardship certificate. So Professor Jeroen Schouten and Professor Bojana Bejovic will be here with me to explain in full detail how that works, what it is, what program the certificate is. So please join me at 4 o'clock.